What is up, AKAPADers? Welcome to AKAPAD's Audio Audacity Podcast, and this is where we talk everything movies, comics, pop culture, sometimes like anecdotes, but I'm your host, Peter A. DeLuca. Yeah, boy! And today, we're talking Terminator Salvation. Now, this movie has not been rediscovered. Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines has had like a little bit of an uptick in how people see that movie. This is the Terminator movie I've seen the most in theaters. I think I saw this 5 times. You hear that intro? Let's get into it. Let's continue this epic from the future Terminator block that we're on. Let's do this. Hey. What on earth am I talking about? Peter, how did you see this movie 5 times? I may have seen it more. I remember 5. I made a little bit of a list before I sat down with you nice people. But in 2009, it was easy for me to make the list because I was single at the time. And I could easily remember the girls I saw this movie with. And here's the crazy thing. 4 girls, 1 boy. I did see it with one of my guy friends. This younger gentleman who I took underneath my wing from the comic book store days, and he would sometimes need someone to do things with, and I was friendly with his mother, and him and I went to go see Terminator Salvation. Anyway, with that being said, I was single at the time in 2009 when this movie came out, directed by Mick G, my boy, because he does make good movies. He makes movies that are just fun to look at, and he gets a bad rap. This movie gets a bad rap. Christian Bale in this movie gets a bad rap. But anyway, I could easily make a list of the nice females of New Jersey and PA I saw this movie with, and it was all within about 2 weeks. So I was just completely soaked in and inundated with this movie. And here's the funny thing. Back when I was building the most epic DVD collection you could ever imagine, before such a thing was a thing, this is me just being Peter, I had a renaissance with this movie on DVD. And it wasn't really until I started watching it at home that the nuance of the movie really stood out. Now, what's the plot? And how is this related to the other Terminator movies? It's, again, it's so hard to talk about the Terminator movies, movie to movie, when you're dealing with rights, you're dealing with if Schwarzenegger is available or not, you're dealing with if Cameron even wants to mention the movie or not. And this is the only one of all the Terminator movies. Terminator 2 Judgment Day, Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines, Terminator Genesis, Terminator Dark Fate. This is the only one that says, no, we don't need Schwarzenegger, we don't need Cameron, we just need a visionary. We need someone with an idea of what this mother effing movie should look and feel like. And then we have Mick G. Mick G set out to make a movie with a tone, with a grain. I remember him saying at one time that when they were processing this film, they ran it through silver particles, okay, to give it a almost like a shine. And you can see this movie texturally is far different than all the Terminators. I like the texture of this movie far more than the daylight stuff. I already said this in T3 Rise of the Machines. I like the texture of this movie far more than the daylight stuff in Terminator Genesis. It doesn't mean one's better or not. I'm talking personal preference here. So, this movie is independent of Arnold Schwarzenegger and James Cameron. It is fully set free. Mick G set out to create. Here's my real contention with the movie. It's a realistic future, and it has the robots. It has a ton of robots. This is the most stacked Terminator feature we'll ever probably get on the big screen. We see all these cool, awesome robots with different functions, with different designs, with different ideas. Because if there was a war being raged, it wouldn't be the three things we've been seeing since the first Terminator movie, which is the flying hunter-killer, the rolling tank thing, and the T-800 slowly walking through a battlefield. We would see a dynamic range of killer machines. We get that in this. We get motorcycles, we get giant 2-story tall ones capturing people. We have cool-looking transport ships. We have aqua hydro ones that are just like worms. They're freaking cool. It's a good list. We're introduced to the T-600, the predecessor of the T-800. Awesome. So the plot of this movie is that John Connor is maybe not John Connor. They did a little Morpheus from the Matrix Reloaded. He's a prophet. He's not a prophet. He knows all, he doesn't know all. The military command is in a contentious attitude towards John Connor. So John Connor is an outsider, which is cool. And then we have this other guy named Marcus. This is how the movie begins. And Marcus essentially is sacrifices himself. He's on death row, but he sacrifices his body to be a part of Cyberdyne's like biochemistry, biorobotics division, and he becomes like the predecessor of what is the Cybernet. Also, Cybernet kind of goes in two directions based on the mythology. First direction is become self-aware, creates machines, fights the war, and essentially, like to some degree, wins the war against humanity. But then it also has this biomechanical division where it can grow human flesh. It can create cells. And this character that we're introduced to very early, played by Sam Worthington, he's like the predecessor to that. So Marcus is almost like Terminator Flesh, Terminator Zero, which is a concept that is further explored in Terminator Genesis. Now, we're also beginning a little bit of a cycle where between T3, Salvation, and Genesis, we're reusing just ideas. This movie is the most independent of reused ideas, easily. This movie does its own thing, which makes it so good. Now, along the way, this Marcus guy encounters Kyle Reese. Kyle, if we know who Kyle Reese is, he is the father of John Connor that John Connor sends into the past, pre-Terminator 1, 1984, to save Sarah Connor. Because Arnold Schwarzenegger, the T-800, is sent from the future to kill Sarah Connor and to win the war against the machines. So here we go. And we have military operations. We have a mute deaf girl character. We have another girl character. Lots of women in this movie. So again, we're furthering the idea that the Terminator franchise is men and women. Especially post Terminator 3, where they committed to a female Terminator, which I love. So it's really hard. Men did not inherit the Terminator franchise at all. And again, this is what makes Terminator so unique. So along the way, we have some decent military action. We have this performance by Christian Bale where he is, this is post Dark Knight Christian Bale, but he is angry in this movie. He wants to win. He wants to fight. He wants people to believe him and listen to him, and he's almost like the hope and the spirit of the human army, of the human resistance. And they portray him as such. You know, like, I don't want to say like godlike or Jesus-like character, but it's there. So they were making this movie, and everyone had eyes on it because everybody loved Dark Knight. And Christian Bale using this as his follow-up to Dark Knight, as in like big movie, it was huge. It was huge. Because you couldn't believe that someone of such a high caliber would be in a Terminator movie, and he added so much. And there was a line that he would throw around during this movie. He said, look, he said, yeah, I can't do his accent, but he said, they came to me to make this movie. And I said, no. And then they came back, and I said, no. And I said, you know what? You give me a script that's good enough to perform on stage, I'll do your movie. And then he's in the movie. And there you go. So we are to presume that the script is stage worthy, meaning limited locations, lots of acting, lots of good dialogue, lots of monologues. I'm not exactly sure what that means, nor does it matter. And then, here we go. Ready? The internet comes. The internet in 2009. This might be the first movie to fall victim to this. Terminator Salvation's ending leaks. The script leaks, the ending leaks. And everything is set ablaze. We now have to have a different movie. And look, I don't blame the Sony. I don't blame whoever made this movie. Like production house wise, the Hal Cylon company. They reshot mostly like the third act. Now look, they had to do it. The ending that leaked was Marcus, because he's biomechanical. He becomes John Connor, and John Connor dies at the end of this movie. And John Connor of the future is a machine. How awesome is that? And I think they set it up perfectly, especially in the beginning, setting it up that a emotional, a aware, a human machine could defeat the machines. We're dealing again themes from the Matrix. That doesn't happen, and we have an ending where John Connor dies, and Marcus gives John Connor his heart, and then that's it. That's your movie. It sucks, I always wanted that ending. That it set the internet on fire. Like it blew people away, and they were already curious about this movie, and it just added to it. I think it would have solidified this movie. Who knows if it would have been any more or less successful, but it is tragic. It's tragic we could not get the original Terminator Salvation ending. It's tragic that McG couldn't get full credit for really being a visionary and seeing a big idea through. Terminator Salvation, he would have been equal to being a visionary sequel-wise as Cameron was when he made his own sequel, Terminator 2 Judgment Day. And then we have the box office. Let's talk box office. Terminator Salvation, budget-wise, it's the largest budgeted, the highest budgeted Terminator movie on the books, $200 million. Domestically, $125. Worldwide, $365. To put that into perspective, let's just go through the Terminator movies. We can skip the 1984 Terminator. That was 80 million worldwide. See, and I would say Terminator is the most important science fiction movie to discuss worldwide box office with, because the entire world is drawn to Terminator. Not so much Star Wars, but it's Terminator. Disney is hoping Disney Plus, their new streaming app, grows Star Wars as a brand worldwide. That's their big bet with that. Terminator 2 Judgment Day, $515 million. Terminator 3, 2003, Rise of the Machines, $443 million. Considered a failure. Terminator Salvation, 2009, $365 million. Considered a failure. Terminator Genesis, 2015, a couple years ago, $432 million. Considered a failure. Terminator Dark Fate, $200 million, considered a failure. Isn't that amazing? You know, they seem like they're good numbers, but the Terminator movies fail endlessly. Now, this movie too, second to T2 or T3, Rise of the Machines. This movie had a full product rollout, where I'm talking 7-Eleven Slurpee cups, tons of action figures, statues, all the merchandise you can imagine. T3 was the first Terminator movie to get that treatment. You know, action figures, they, like, you were fully within like the T3 merchandise push out. Terminator Salvation, of all of the Terminator movies, had the biggest rollout when it comes to merchandise. And we had a video game, and then we have what is our next discussion. Because, again, everyone out there, I'm talking, you're listening, because I know you guys listen. People have been missing, you know, ideas and events and content when they discuss the Terminator film franchise, or just the Terminator franchise in general. I've already discussed, they skip over T2 3D Battle Across Time. That was episode 254. In 256, we're discussing the Terminator Salvation Machinist series. It's a six episode web series, CGI, linked to the Terminator Salvation video game, and it's roughly an hour long. It's maybe like an hour 15. Almost a full-length movie. This was part of the rollout for Terminator Salvation. This is just another great story. Our next episode of AKAPAD's Audio Audacity podcast, episode 257, we're going to be discussing that. This is what I meant about you're getting a full analysis, a full look into the Terminator franchise, into the world of Terminator. And until next time, I'm Peter A. DeLuca, AKAPAD. I am your boy. And thank you so much for joining me. We're going to keep this train going. We're not stopping until we hit Terminator Dark Fate. So let's rock and roll.